So, RL Topper crashes the internet, the Civil War community is trying to purchase his own land for reenactments, and the authentic campaigner becomes the ranking forum for Civil War discussion. This is Flanking Thoughts. So, all right, we have a lot to get to today. Actually, I believe this is the first, Flanking Thoughts episode we are putting on YouTube, so that's cool. Welcome to those who are new to Flanking Thoughts. What this is, guys, is this is actually a bunch of thoughts that come together, more of just general popular culture discussion in the Civil War reenacting community. What happened is, in doing all the research, for those of you who follow our YouTube channel, I do all the research and spend hours and hours pouring in research. Every now and then I just go crazy and I just need to vent and go do something stupid, and that's what these Flanking Thoughts are, is just general thoughts and perceptions I have in the Civil War reenacting community. We will be talking about authentic reproductions. We will be talking about originals, some of the stuff out there, but honestly this is just a forum to discuss the pop culture of Civil War reenacting. So like I said in the opener, RL Topper is crashing the internet. Not really. Of those of you who follow the social media aspect of Civil War reenacting, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or MySpace, definitely not MySpace. But if you look at Facebook, there's a forum called Civil War Reenactors Forum, and what this forum is has become, honestly, a daily entertainment aspect of my life. I go there, if I want to laugh, I just go there. It's one of those things that it's become, honestly, a cesspool of just awesome, sarcastic comments on a daily basis. To give you an idea of some of the stuff out here, we have these pictures here that you can see on this feed, and also to kind of read one of the comments out there is one by the name of Scott Sheets, who just actually copied Samuel Bailey's post that said, is making fun of the whole dismounted cavalry argument. He said, "I agree with blank person. If none of you have ridden into battle on a horse, you should not be talking. He has. He has faced the smoke-shrouded tongues of flame spat from elevated army sports. He has dodged the angry crack of multiple pistols wielded by Yankee vermin. He has danced the clanging dance of blunted sabers and known the burst of adrenaline and fear when his blue belly thrusts when he should parry. He has neither the time nor the inclination to explain himself to men who stand at parade rest on the sidelines while he and his fellow troopers provide entertainment to the crowd. And when the question and the manner in which he provides it, the prelude to the battle has to be performed by men with horses. Who's going to do it? Are you, RL Topper? Are you, Blaine Karen?" Obviously, this is all nothing but satire, but the reason I think this is interesting and worth noting is because it's Facebook. One of the, I pick an RL Topper right now because he's out there and he's the one everyone's picking on. But I'll say this, the whole Civil War reenacting community has been like this ever since I've got into it. I remember, early on trying to be a reenactor, I had no support. There was no unit out here in Wyoming. No one, literally no one, as far as the impression I wanted to do. And I had to do my own research, and on the Authentic Campaigner, on the forums, and the Civil War Reenacting Forum, which we'll get to here in a little bit, I would look and research, and I would actually kind of troll, I'm not troll, that's a wrong term, but I would just research in the background, not post, not do anything, but for two or 3 years, I would just research, and I would look at these people's posts, and I would say, oh my goodness, how mean, how blunt, how angry are these guys, and they're not winning any souls over to reenacting at all by being this blatantly mean. But I will say, I'm still relatively young in the reenacting community, but I will say it gets to a point when someone asks, where do I buy XYZ for the 500th time? You kind of understand where these guys come out with their very, belligerent or very blunt answers that they have. So like I said, I'm picking on RL Topper. If you're not familiar with some of his comments, you can't make this stuff up. This is awesome. Like I said, you have to go on just as entertainment value. You just have to see it as that. If you're going on Facebook, Civil War Reenactors Facebook page for information or for actually like deep digestive material, you're in the wrong place. Literally, don't go to Facebook for your information. But to give you an idea why people are giving R.L. Topper a hard time, as he says, here's one of his posts, I'm going to start portraying a woman civilian for Civil War era stuff, and then I'll show you how ridiculous this argument is. And of course, talking about women soldiers. Here's another one of his. It says, since we're on the topic of cav today, which of course, being a cavalry trooper, it gets my attention. He says, what does everyone think about paint horses? Are they correct? If not, why have them at events? And of course, he tags John Andy for any answers. And of course, this went off on a diatribe of him and this other gal going back and forth. And again, it's just entertainment. It's hilarious. Honestly, trying to talk to reenactors on either side of the game on Facebook is like trying to argue politics on Facebook. You're not going to change anyone's mind, but hey, it's entertaining. So here's another one of his other posts. He says, tough pill to swallow. Just because you have been reenacting for 20 or 30 years, or however long you've been doing it, doesn't justify having the incorrect kit or doing things half-hearted. For example, an excuse often heard by people when they get called out is that they've been reenacting longer than they have. Which again, is blunt. It comes out blunt and comes off very abrasive, but there's you got to understand both sides of the story. Here's another good one too. He says, don't take this the wrong way. R.L. Topper, I got to say this. I love it when you say that because I can't wait to read what's coming next. He says cavalry and artillery groups usually have a pretty sketchy reputation. Agreed. When it comes to authenticity and accuracy, if you're going to pay thousands of dollars for cannons, limbers, caissons, horses, saddles, tack, and this and that, and the list goes on, why would you not spend the extra few bucks on quality uniform and a quality kit? It is too expensive to be authentic argument is irrelevant for these said parties, but you still seem to be really bad, you still seem to see some of the worst impressions with artillery and cavalry. I paraphrase there, but again, that's a fun topic too. And then of course, R.L. Topper, tagged Brian, and one of the polls out there is what's killing the hobby, and of course, one of the things that took the cake was crap talking R.L. Topper. So he's killing the hobby right now. That and know-it-all campaigners. It's just stuff like this, guys, that go into giving people like that. Whether you want to call it the Topper effect or just the campaigner effect, you get to a point where you got to understand what's going on with the different factions in reenacting, especially with the Civil War reenacting website, the forum going down, which we'll talk. Well, actually, in the episode with that. But when we're talking about, we're all these social media aspects in a way are combining. We're branching out, but also in a way we're combining all these different groups. And when you have two dichotomies, and that's what it is, guys. That's why there's argument and dissension and arguing back and forth, is because you're combining two completely different paradigms. Completely different. Arguably three, actually. You have three different paradigms of why people reenact. Number one, they do it for themselves. They want to experience the soldier. They want to experience what it was like to be a soldier in the 1860s. So they're in it for themselves. If you want to call it the selfish aspect, that is one way, one reason you're in the hobby. The other reason that I hear a lot is I want to honor my ancestors. I want to honor what they went through. That's a whole other conversation that I'm not going to talk about, but I have a hesitation in saying that's the reason because there's a lot of things we can honor our other ancestors for doing, but you're not doing those either, right? So obviously you're drawn to reenacting, whether it be Civil War, World War I, World War II, Rev War, whatever it is, you're drawn to that for a specific reason, but hey, I'll give it to you. You want to honor your ancestors, which, side note question, are you? Are you honoring your ancestors? That's the whole other conversation. And the third one is to actually educate the public. So those are your three factions, which I'm going to boil down to I want an experience myself or I'm educating the public. And when you actually combine those two dichotomies, those two paradigms into one Facebook group, you're going to get arguments because one of the principal foundations of one doesn't even matter the other. So when you argue one aspect, the other, I don't care about it. You know, one of the arguments of the people who want to educate the public, they always say, well, yeah, what about educating the public? But yet the other paradigm, they're like, well, yeah, who cares? Who cares about educating the public? So anyways, that's where you get this dichotomy, but I find it interesting. What do you guys think? When you first got into Civil War reenacting, those of you who follow the forums, especially the Authentic Campaigner, the AC got a, you know, especially old AC got a bad rap for just being a whole bunch of just abrasive turds, basically. A bunch of jerks, if you will. I'm trying to keep this PG. But, you know, a whole bunch of jerks. But I will say this. I learned early on that don't ask stupid questions. You know, because, like I said, I researched a lot in the background before I even made my first post at all. And because you realize that there's a lot of questions people ask all the time, every day, right? And the Google, you know, you realize being in the hobby that people are just lazy. They don't want to research, they don't want to do the work, and so they just want to go on the forums, ask, hey, where do I get this? And they just want to trust whoever they want to trust, and then whatever they say, they're going to go and buy it. And that's where you get some abrasiveness. But I will say this about, again, whether you call it the Topper effect, you know, I'm not just picking on RL Topper, it's just, you know, all the guys who just honestly have had it. They've been in the hobby long enough, they're like, forget this, you know, none of this nice guy stuff. They're like the guy, every organization, every company has that one jerk who, you know, like he's just, everyone avoids him because he hates the world, and he's that one guy that just, he hates the world. But I will say this, people respect him, you know why? Because they know where they stand with the guy. He doesn't BS, he doesn't, you know, beat around the bush, he doesn't stab you in the back. If he wants to stab you, he does it to your face, right? So he's like, whether the RL Toppers or whoever on these forums, it's just, you know, they're those guys who they just have had it, and they want you to do the research, they want you to care, and they have little patience for people who either lazy who honestly don't care. But if you take a look, not just RL Topper's posts, but some of these other guys' posts, especially on the AC forum, the ones who are generally pretty abrasive, if the guy who posts, say, a quote-unquote stupid question is even halfway, even kind of trying, like if he said, hey, I searched the forums using this phrase and I couldn't find anything, can anyone help me? Notice how they're actually pretty nice. They say, hey, check this out, or go over here. So it is interesting. I want you guys to take on this. Do you think the abrasiveness of some of these old-timers are killing the hobby or not? In a way, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm torn because, you know, I mean, when I first got into the hobby, when I first got in personally, it was the Farb Fest of the movie Gettysburg, the reenactments at our local museum, that kind of stuff that, you know, looking back at it is completely Farbtastic. You know, it's that stuff that got me in the hobby. So in one way, even Farbtastic stuff gets people interested in history. But on another side, you know, at what point are we really honoring our ancestors by going out and honestly a whole bunch of grown men playing army in the field? Like, really, we're just having fun is what it is, right? And so, you know, where are we? What's the dichotomy here? So anyways, post below, comment below. I'm kind of curious what you guys think on that. So the whole idea of crashing the internet, you know, I was just being facetious there. But it's something to keep in mind. You know, basically, when you go on these forums, don't go on these forums, or sorry, not forums, the Facebook pages, whether it's, you know, Civil War Reenactors Facebook page, or there's 100. I think I get invited to 3 pages a day. It's ridiculous. But, you know, don't go there expecting to get some really deep research. That's not what you're gonna get, right? So keep that in mind. But I find it interesting, you know, one of our main stories is this whole idea of the Topper effect, if you will. We've been talking about that here amongst our friends here in Wyoming. But call it the Topper effect, whatever you want. Sorry, RL Topper, I'm giving you, you know, totally talking about you, but in a good way. Like I have no qualms at all. I understand why people, you know, comment in that way. But guys, I'll say this: don't go on these Facebook pages and think, you know, like posting a picture of yourself and not expect to get ripped up. I mean, have you seen the internet? Like, I honestly, I kind of have a hard time with these post your impression Facebook pages because in a way, it's just kind of very narcissistic, it seems like. Very like, look at me, right? And of course, when you post a picture of, look at me, pick me apart, really? Like, really? Are you, really? It just kind of rubs me the wrong way when people post those kind of pictures. It's just because it's a lot of like, look at me kind of stuff. And then when people criticize you, like, you have all these excuses. So honestly, just, guys, Facebook is for, just for entertainment value. And I will say this. Our Civil War Reenactors Facebook page, very entertaining. I mean, if you don't go there for deep, just go there for a good laugh. That's what it's there for. So with that, kind of something interesting. I wanted to talk about it, but it's it's out there. So next topic is an organization by the name of, let's see if I get this right. An organization by the North-South Living History Guild. Actually organized, sounds like a guy by the name of Shane. I would say his last name, but I'm probably going to destroy it. So I'll just leave it at Shane with the North-South Living History Guild. And what they're proposing is actually to model themselves after a World War I, Newville, actually just in Pennsylvania here, Newville, that they actually, I didn't know this, but it sounds like in about 1995, obviously outside of my narrow window of 1861 to 1865 cavalry, anything beyond that narrow window of knowledge, I'm completely ignorant in, right? So apparently, since 1995, the Great War Association, the GWA, has actually maintained about 88 acres of this property that they actually do, living histories and reenactments and immersion events for World War I reenactments. And what this North-South Living History Guild is trying to do is do the exact same thing, for Civil War reenacting. So, guys, I want your opinion on this. There's been some there's been some arguments back and forth already. They just posted themselves just a few days ago on the forums and on Facebook. So they're relatively new as far as trying to advertise themselves. But Shane and his partner in crime there, they actually had a live Facebook feed. Actually, they split it up into two different sections because they had some technical difficulties. But I recommend watching that. Just get an idea what they're all about and doing that. But I want you guys to comment below. What do you guys think of having a property, whether it's 100 acres or 200 acres, whatever it is, having a property dedicated to Civil War reenacting, and having a lot of different venues, having the ability to do, the theory is pretty cool, honestly. On the surface, I like the idea because you can have some, a place everyone goes to, they're familiar with it, they know where to park, they know where to go. There's definitely some benefits to it, especially from the fixed standpoint of garrison type events. I think would be good there. Having some Petersburg trenches there, that'd be pretty cool. Having a established town or a village there, with buildings that you can maybe reenact, taking a Fredericksburg or something like that. But that kind of stuff, on the surface, I think it's a good idea. However, there are some hesitations that I have, and actually they can be expressed by some of the comments that I've seen on Facebook. One guy actually quoted, actually let me get to this here. One guy actually quoted, what is the focus of the property? I'm not opposed to having more events by us and for us, or EBUFU events, but I'd like to avoid having such events as Vicksburg in the Dakotas kind of thing. I prefer to reenact in the general vicinity of the site where the actual historic event took place. And I must say, I'm the same way. In fact, us being in Wyoming, we're in the middle of nowhere. Everywhere we go, we're at least a 10-hour, 12-hour drive to do anything remotely close. And so for us, when we take, for us, an event that we go to, we have to take a week off of vacation. It's a complete week driving with horses and all that kind of stuff. Say 2 days of driving there, 2 days of driving back, 3 or 4 day event. But we always spend at least one, arguably 2 days in the area touring museums and getting custom tours and enjoying the sights and the sounds. So we actually make a big adventure of it. When we go to Shiloh, we actually have a tour guide take us all throughout the battlefield, and we do our own. We went to Gettysburg. We had a tour guide, licensed battlefield tour guide, take us around. The next day, we rode the original battlefield, the equine trails there. Everywhere we go, we make kind of an adventure of it, kind of a week of it, if you will. And to have, I'm with this guy here. He's talking about, I don't want to reenact Vicksburg up in Pennsylvania. It's kind of defeats the purpose. But there's that aspect too. Another guy commented and says that This land would involve fictitious scenarios or be doomed to the perpetual repeat of the same scenarios for all time. And when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to that, I would have to agree there's just enough drawback of having a single location for all reenactors to go to that would actually, I think, eventually, let it peter out and die off, and people are going to start going to other events, other places. Anyways, another thing that I have a hard time with, especially as a mounted individual, whether you're talking about mounted artillery, horse-drawn pieces, ambulances, wagons, or cavalry in general, a large, what infantry would consider a large 200, 300, 400 acre site, honestly, not that big. For cavalry really to get the experience that cavalry is looking for, you need a lot of land, which honestly, is cost prohibitive. If we're talking, what we're trying to do here, it's cost prohibitive to get enough land for cavalry to actually do the patrols and the reconnaissance and the scouting and the campaigning that they need to do. I mean, for goodness sake, there's a book called 40 Miles a Day on Beans and Hay for a reason. Now, granted, kind of outside is more after the Civil War time frame, but still 40, 50, 30, 20, 10 miles a day is kind of what we're looking for. But 5 miles a day, even something like that, to give us an idea of true campaigning for cavalry. And obviously we're not going to get that. We know that. That's why we have our own little world of campaigning off on the side. But what do you guys think? Comment below. Tell me what you guys think. Would this be a good thing? Is this something that as a community we should get behind? Honestly, I haven't committed either way. There's some, if done correctly, I can see it, take off and be really awesome. But I guess in the short time I've been in reenacting, 9 times out of 10, everything's done incorrectly anyways. I'm accepting of it as to how it goes, but, that's why it's hard to get any organized effort behind what you're passionate about, because most people understand that everything is going to drift away, dwindle, and not actually happen. So anyways, interesting. Comment below, tell me what you guys think. So all right, one of the last things I want to cover tonight, again, flanking thoughts, just things coming out of my head, just throwing up my head on the camera here. If you actually take a look and see all the activity that you have done as a reenactor online, is what I'm talking about, does it drift back to the Civil War Reenactors forum? We got the Authentic Campaigner Forum now. Obviously, it's been there for a while. We also have the Civil War Reenactors Forum, and as of this month, actually, let me quote it right here. Let me read it. The legendary Bob or Robert Zabo. I always want to say Zazbo. I'm pronouncing it completely wrong, anyways. But Robert Zabo posted the following on August 10th. He said, "Quote: I started Civil War Reenactors in 1996. After 22 years, I have decided to take my Civil War Reenactors.com site down, or CWReenactors.com site down. Thanks to all who have participated, and a special thanks to the many moderators who have worked hard to keeping things running smoothly." And as simple as that, Civil War Reenactors forum is done. I know for me, in a way, it's kind of a sad thing. It's not necessarily unexpected, but it is kind of unexpected, and it's kind of a turning of the age, if you will. I know when I first got in, just before the 150th cycle, so yeah, I know I'm a new guy, but just before the 150th cycle, I know I wanted to do the 150th cycle, but I didn't know anything, and so I just kind of trolled kind of hid in the background on both the AC forum and the Civil War Reenactors forum, like I said, for a couple of years before I even bought anything, did anything, even commented. But I will say that when I got in there, and man, people were, they were active, they were talking, they were discussing, they were talking about, research. And I will say from a mainstream perspective, the Civil War Reenactors forum was a very valuable tool, just very similar to how the AC forum is now. It was very, very, very useful, because all the questions that new guys had were already answered, all that stuff, and it was a very much more welcoming atmosphere than, say, the AC forum was. Now, Eric Tipton has so far done an awesome job. He has completely, I believe, in my short time, turned around the AC forum from basically what it was, had its reputation, to now, now he is on top. Not he, but the AC forum is on top. The campaigners, the authentics, the guys who are actually trying to do good, hardcore living history and reenacting and campaigning, they're it. The Civil War, Bob, they shut down his website. You can't even see the announcement. It's just shut down. There's nothing there. And from that perspective, the AC now reigns as the Civil War reenacting forum for discussions and activities and notifications and all that kind of stuff. I mean, unless you count Facebook, and guys, Facebook is not a place to search or do research. You can't, search past archival information or anything like that. And so really the AC is now a standalone thing. And so you're starting to see, even Eric has talked about this, he's starting to see, we're starting to see a lot of, shift from the Civil War Reenactors forum, and we're getting a lot more, if you will, mainstreamers into that, which is awesome. That people are, they're getting in. People are looking for that community to belong to, and the AC has taken up that community now. It's awesome. I think it's great, but it's kind of an end of an era. Again, with Bob's site going down, it's an end of an era. So what does this mean? Does this mean anything? Are we going over to Facebook now? I mean, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Snapchat, we have, what's the picture one? I don't even know. What the picture one is? Instagram. There we go, Instagram. And all those forums, is that going to take the place, or all those social media aspects, is that going to take place of the AC forum? The answer is no. Why? Because the forum has all the research. They have the original articles. You have a lot of older guys, a lot of wisdom there posting these things, and it's very useful. Use the search function. Very, very good stuff there. But at the same time, Facebook is useful too. You have Instagram, which is useful. The Civil War reenacting community is getting younger. Again, the argument is we're not dying, we're changing, which, looking at some of these events and some of the stuff going on, I think is true. Now I don't have this. I'm a numbers-driven guy. I'm kind of an engineer-based guy, and so I haven't seen anything statistically to prove that the hobby, quote unquote, is dying. Does it feel like it? Yes. I just don't have the statistical evidence to prove that yet. But I'll say this from the campaigner's perspective. Our events that we have out here where we go, 15, 20, 30 miles on horseback and do campaign and do nothing but living out of the saddle, they're picking up. We're getting popular. Same thing seems like, the campaigner events back east as well. So, is this an end of an era? What's going to be the future of reenacting? Well, it's just, Rev War, Civil War, World War I, World War II. We all have our communities. What does Civil War look like? I'm curious on what you guys think. Please comment below and tell me what you guys think. Whether, this YouTube channel or these YouTube channels are going to be worthwhile. Are they a source of information for you? Or like this video, is it just me rambling and making fun of people, right? Let me know what you think, but something to keep in mind. End of an era. Just wanted to say that, Bob's site coming down, Civil War Reenactors forum coming down. End of an era for me. It meant a lot. But again, no big surprise, because a couple years ago they kind of had a cry wolf, or kind of a warning that they were going to do this, and pretty much from that point on, for the past year and a half to 2 years, no one's really had a whole lot of activity there anyways. But anyways, pretty interesting. Tell me what you guys think. All right, so in closing, we always close out with an original item of the day, some drills of the day, and of course my favorite photograph of the day, or of the week, I guess. This one, actually, what I liked is, you probably saw this on our Facebook page. We posted this. The 11th OVC acquired an original clothing book from Company I&K of the 58th Pennsylvania Infantry. Again, if you actually search the 58th Pennsylvania Infantry, they weren't really in, the large name famous engagements of the war, but they were involved. They had some pretty good engagements. They definitely fought throughout the war. But what I love about this original item is that it really, when you match up the clothing issues, actually the cost is always interesting too, but when you match up the clothing issues with their campaigning, right? So right after they came off of a campaign, you would see a lot of ledger marks in here about guys, and especially privates and even officers, being outfitted with with canteens. And what's nice here too, because the ordnance returns, like I said, one of these whole reasons of flanking thoughts is because I've spent probably 3 or 4 months now doing some research on the ordnance returns, and sometimes I just get sick of looking at ordnance returns. So that's why I'm doing this whole flanking thoughts series, anyways. But when you actually match up the ordnance returns, they don't talk about clothing issues or canteens or blankets or anything like that. It's considered more the textile, the clothing issue. And so you get the canteens, the drawers, the jackets. And what I love about this is you get to see the terminology they use. They don't call it a mounted service jacket for cavalry. They call it a cavalry jacket. They call it an infantry jacket, which is interesting, right? There's definitely some verbiage and some interesting aspects here. But what I love about this is you can match up their campaigning seasons, and right after they got back and they got to a say a garrison type situation, the clothing issue started pouring in on more gear, more canteens, more clothing, more drawers, especially a lot of blankets issued here too. Favorite original item for the week: the original clothing return of the 58th Pennsylvania Infantry. Now, so moving on, the next thing I normally do is I do a drill of the week, and normally we talk about cavalry, obviously, because we are the 11th OVC. But actually, this is the first time we've actually published on YouTube our Flanking Thoughts series. I want to actually just give a shout out to not just any specific drill, but a shout out to our partners in this effort of education. We have the Civil War Digital Digest, which is, a lot of you guys already know, Civil War Digital Digest is an awesome source of information. They do an awesome job of filming, of editing, of all the stuff they do. So I will have to say, good job to you guys out there. If you haven't already, please subscribe to their channel. A lot of good content, a lot of good information. And secondly, another YouTube channel I strongly recommend looking at is the 2nd U.S. Sharpshooters Company D. I believe they're out of Washington. Ethan Whitehall is with that, and they do a really good job. And what's interesting is every one of us, whether it's 11th OVC, Civil War Digital Digest, or or 2nd U.S. Sharpshooters, we all have our own take on this hobby. We all have our own reason why we do what we do, and we complement each other, and we're all partnered in this idea of furthering education and making the original, making the primary, if you will, making the primary accounts more available to the common reenactor. If we can just give you a little bit more ease of information and let you guys understand what a good impression, how it should be, then we've done our job. So again, for the drill of the week, I'm not going to actually talk about a specific drill. I just want to give a shout out. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Civil War Digital Digest. Check their Facebook out and their website as well. Check out the 2nd U.S. Sharpshooters. Subscribe to their YouTube channel as well, and check them out on Facebook and on their website. So again, shout out to those. Lastly, we're going to end with this: the photo of the week. Now, this is my favorite photo that I've seen this week. I guess I must admit it's on my Facebook feed. This is actually a quarter plate tin type of 2 Union soldiers, apparently obviously pretty close or friends. And what's interesting about this one is inside the case, it actually is written kind of interesting note that says, "May thy presence always be the same." So, I don't know, kind of a touchy thing, but it depends on how you want to take that. It is interesting either way. What's interesting about these two guys, they are identified. David Williams, who is on the left, served in Company E of the 104th Pennsylvania Infantry, and the guy on the right, Lewis Masterson, was in Company I of the 53rd Pennsylvania Infantry. What's interesting is Williams there on the left was a late war enlistee. Wow, let me say that again. He was a late war enlistee volunteering on February of 1865. On the other hand, Masterson served with the 53rd Infantry from February 1862 on, and he actually was with his unit in Gettysburg and so on, and he actually re-volunteered as a veteran even at the, look here, at the very old age of 19. Yeah, at the age of 19, he re-enlisted as a veteran. Both of them were in their 5 foot, definitely lower than 6 foot, which is common for the day. And of course, both of them were listed on the enlistment papers as farmers. So again, what's interesting about this, what I love about this, is you take a look at their pants. Their pants are very, I find that interesting. I love their headgear. You have 2 really good examples of headgear, especially the guy on the right. I love everything about this picture. Again, pretty simple picture, not a whole complex, nothing crazy about it, but just a really good picture of what I would consider the material culture of the time. So, I love this picture. So I hope you guys enjoy this picture as well. So with that, I've talked long enough. Hopefully I've ranted long enough. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If not, please thumbs down, say this sucks. Otherwise, you guys get a little taste of my mind. These flanking thought series are just, me getting brain dead about looking through ordnance returns for 6 hours at a time, and I just want to go talk about like R.L. Topper and Civil War Reenactors Facebook page or whatever. But guys, here's the deal: have fun, understand why you're in the hobby, and as long as you're confident in what you're doing, then it's whatever. You just have fun. It is a hobby, so do what you need to do to have fun. But I challenge you guys as much as you can, try to improve your impression, get to know the drill manual, do the best you can, and as always, I'll end with this, and you guys know where I'm going. Until we see you in the field, ride hard.